Hello, I'm Susan Elliott, the News and Special Reports Editor for Musical America. Today, we are talking with Wayne Brown. Wayne is the president and CEO of the Michigan Opera Theater, which in hiring a new artistic director has seen a very big change in direction since the pandemic. Yuval Sharon, their artistic director, is an incredibly creative human being, but it's been Wayne who's enabled him to make some of his wackier ideas happen in the city of Detroit and now in collaborating with other companies beyond Detroit. Hi, Wayne.
Hello, Susan. Great to see you.
Thank you for joining us. It's great to see you. I wanted to talk to you about what's been going on at Michigan Opera Theater. It just seems that everything is very different from the way it was before the pandemic, not just because of the pandemic, but because you have a new artistic director and things seem to be very inventive and creative in a way that they hadn't been or as much before. So can you talk to us about that a little?
Glad to. Thank you, Susan, for the opportunity to chat with you. Clearly, 2020 presented unexpected circumstances that required all of us to pivot. Michigan Opera Theater was no exception in the same way that the rest of the world. We were preparing for our 50th anniversary of Michigan Opera Theater, recognizing the remarkable journey that founder David DiChiara created in Detroit and in Michigan for opera in the region. So we were kind of preparing for the next 50, if you will. Who would have imagined that we would unfold an offering as we have indeed experienced in recent past? So the past year of while we're on pause, provide an opportunity to reflect and think about where are we in this process and where might we wish to go given the opportunity.
Right. And when did Yuval Sharon come into the picture? Was that during the pandemic, or were you talking to him before, or?
Well, I've known Yuval for a number of years. Actually, it turns out that at the time I was part of the National Endowment for the Arts in my role of music and director of music and opera. And in 2008 is when the National Endowment for the Arts partnered with Opera America, the service organization for the opera industry, to produce the NEA Opera Honors. In that regard, Opera America engaged Yuval Sharon to produce the event. And that was our first encounter. It left an incredible impression for all of us. And so someone's been on my radar screen for some time since that period. He was part of the New York City Opera. I was aware of his work in terms of his creation of Hopscotch. Right. The distinction that he established in terms of site-specific work was certainly something that caught the attention of so many throughout the opera world. Mm-hmm. And so it was not a new voice, but I had not necessarily thought in terms of in the role of artistic director of the traditional company of Yuval. But it took the pandemic that triggered the opportunity to pause, reimagine how might we approach coming out of this pandemic stage in a very different way, certainly not in the same way that we left it. And one thing led to the other. So from my point of view, one of the great things that's come out of this pause is the alliance between Yuval Sharon and our company, Michigan Opera Theater, and Detroit. In an alignment with Yuval's appointment, a member of our board stepped up to ensure that the aspirations that Yuval would bring to Michigan Opera Theater would have a lasting effect. And so we're delighted that his position is known as the Gary L. Wasserman Artistic Chair. Our appointment of Christine Gerke as an associate artistic director was made possible by three supportive families here in Detroit. She is joined by our 2021 artist in residence, Devon Tynes. These three individuals, Yuval Sharon, Christine Gerke, and Devon Tynes, represent the next phase for artistic leadership with Michigan Opera Theater.
Tell us about the wonderful Twilight Gods. Did he call you about that? Did you, where did that start? I will just back up a little bit in case for some reason people don't know about it. You all staged these excerpts of the Ring in your parking garage. And it was one of the great pandemic pivots of the 18 months of the pandemic. And it was something Yuval Sharon directed. So where did all that begin? How did that start?
Starting a conversation. Thank you for making reference to Twilight Gods. Shortly after Yuval and I started conversations about what constitutes Michigan Opera Theater. We talked about the programmatic focus. We talked about the fact that we happen to own our venue. And beyond the venue, we happen to own a parking center, because not only we provide accommodation for those who wish to park downtown Detroit, but we also have an office, series of office suites. And that's why we refer to it as a parking center. And so in describing the footprint, Yuval, when he heard me make reference to the parking center, he said, aha, Twilight Gods. That's exactly the sequence of how it began. And in 6 weeks later, it created this opportunity to what I have referred to as unveiling the latest downtown performing arts center in Detroit, in the parking center. So there we are. And it far exceeded our expectation, with audiences coming from 14 states, incredible media attention. We're so appreciative the turnout that came out from our own community and those who were curious about what this Twilight Gods was all about. We were delighted to partner with the Lyric Opera Chicago, which had a subsequent performance. And so it captured the attention of quite a few members of the audience and media attention. So thank you for raising that issue. And it was the beginning of what would become a series of special moments as we all try to navigate this period known as the pandemic in ways that could still allow interaction between art and audiences.
And may I ask how in the conversation with Yuval, the phrase parking center came up? Is that something you two talk about a lot? Is parking garages? I mean, where did it, how did it come up?
Well, it came up naturally in terms of how we function as an organization. The parking center for our company serves as a form of endowment. And so in addition to providing parking accommodation for our patrons, it so happens that our location, being directly across from Comerica Park and less than a quarter of a mile from the home of the Detroit Lions, allows us to be able to benefit from the teams and the audiences they attract, and serves as an important revenue stream for the company. So it's about leveraging resources and also taking advantage of the fact that in-person programming was not going to be possible early on. And so what are the options available outside of the parking center? Therefore, by extension, Yuval, known for his site-specific work, it was not much of a leap for him to think about leveraging those settings. So once he arrived, then that continued the exploration. Once Twilight Gods was behind us, and the question became, when's the next parking center project? And they said, oh, no. We will move elsewhere throughout Detroit, throughout the region, to explore alternative options so we could leverage good weather conditions, engaging audiences as we seek to find an end to the pandemic for all of us and still remain connected with our audiences.
Right. And you've done quite a job of finding, quote, alternative venues.
Following
Okay.
Twilight Gods,
Okay.
we then made our inaugural performance, concert version of Cavalleria Rusticana at Meadowbrook. It's an amphitheater with permanent seating, an incredible shell, and it enables audiences to benefit from the performances without amplification, unless you are on the lawn areas that surround the designated seating. So it's a very wonderful space. Acoustically, it was very satisfying. And again, we were able to observe social distancing in that configuration. Right. 3 weeks ago, we indeed, as you pointed out, presented production of Blue, Jeannie Tesori and Tazewell Thompson's work, which was directed by Kaneza Shaw. So it was a different production from the premiere, which took place in Glimmerglass in 2019. When you think about that sequence and about trying to leverage different settings, maintaining social distancing, and also creating in-person programming, those define the 4 signature events that have occurred over a period of time. That fourth one being Bliss, which was done in the Michigan Theater, which hasn't been occupied in over 45 years. And it was almost like a Gothic cathedral inside, but it's a work that was presented, the finale from Mozart's Marriage of Figaro, and it took place in 24 rotations every 30 minutes from 12 noon to midnight, which was our most recent experience and just 4 days ago. And so it's been an interesting ride and an exciting one.
Right. And was that also Yuval's staging?
It was indeed. It was originally presented in Los Angeles, and Yuval was given the opportunity to add his own personal tweaks to the production. And we were really quite excited about the outcome. The response was immediate, and members of the audience arrived at their time slots within 30-minute increments and returned throughout the evening. We happened
they could come and go, could they?
Absolutely. Giving a wristband, you could pay however you were inspired. There was a suggested amount, but there are those who were able to participate, return, contribute as you were so inclined. And we're so fortunate there are those who were very generous in terms of responding in that manner.
Do you know, can you tell me how many people came to see it?
Over 2,700 people throughout the day. Wow. And that's in 12 30-minute slots. And so there beyond that, there are those who returned in subsequent time slots throughout the day. Some returned twice, others 3 times. It was interesting to see those who arrived at the very beginning, those who arrived midday, and those who wanted to be part of the finale. And at that time, for those who were there, we were able to acknowledge appropriately with a final toast to all who were present.
Was Blue on your schedule before the pandemic? It was it not?
Blue was on our radar screen, but it was not. It had not yet reached the schedule.
Oh,
and
no,
knowing that Yuval wanted to observe the first half of the season in leveraging performances under good weather conditions, is why we elected to position Blue in the slot that took place in mid-September, before the temperature dropped in Michigan at that time.
Right. Tell us your next productions in the Opera House.
We look forward to the first week in April, when we will mount a new production by Yuval Sharon, of Puccini's La Bohème, in reverse order. The music doesn't change. The experience, the theatrical experience, will be done in reverse, going from a scene of darkness to a sense of light. And Yuval has described this as how appropriate. as we're coming out of the pandemic and look for the next phase of life cycle, that this will be reflected in part of what takes place on our stage. We're delighted that it will take place in tandem with, in partnership with, the Spoleto Festival and the Boston Lyric Opera. So a Michigan Opera Theater production will have life beyond the initial performances.
Is it correct to call Michigan Opera Theater a presenter? Because you produce opera, but you also present dance and other.
Indeed.
And you are acting as the presenter, or is that a rental, or how does that work?
We produce opera. We present dance, a very robust dance series. And in fact, we look forward to the Dance Year of Harlem returning to the Opera House in February of next year, where they've had a long-term association with the company. We have an affiliation with Broadway musicals, and that takes place each year. In fact, The Lion King will be done. But what is able to occur as the venue operator, unlike so many situations where Broadway musicals and so forth take place, we set our own dates. And after our dates are set, we make it the venue available for alternative purposes. For example, some 50 weddings take place in the Opera House each year.
And what about the audiences? I know that Detroit had one going in because the Met had come to visit in the old days when it toured. But the inner city population, and most of Detroit is mostly a Black city, is it not?
Correct. That is correct.
And how is that reflected in your audiences?
Well, first of all, one must remember that Detroit Michigan Opera Theater was created in 1971, 4 years immediately following the race riots in Detroit. David DiChiara was determined to put a stake in the ground and to declare that the city and opera should indeed coexist beyond the Met's visits. And it is from that beginning that we've stayed true to our commitment to Detroit and to the corridor. So David wanted to make sure that audiences could see themselves represented on the stage. Audiences from Detroit could see themselves on the stage, in the pit, and we try to maintain that commitment. When I had my early conversations with Yuval Sharon about what might constitute new artistic leadership going forward, is that we were looking for someone who would not only be devoted to the company, but also devoted to Detroit.
I want to say thank you so much for joining us. I also want to say congratulations on making all of the changes that you've been able to make, and obviously done so with success and care. So congratulations.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate the opportunity. And I would say the challenges that we face in Detroit are challenges that exist within our entire industry. And I'm also so pleased and appreciative for the collaborative spirit that exists among opera company and the leaders, the ongoing conversations within the performing arts, and how we managed to all navigate and find solutions that work for us in our respective areas. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you.